Wizards of the Coast decided to do something pretty funny, like I don't know, a month ago. They decided
It's actually funny, Brian.
Hilarious.
Yeah, and by funny I mean it pissed a lot of people off.
So not funny.
Which is actually pretty funny.
Right. That's the funny part. They tried it. They gave it the old college try. So they
A lot of that these days. We're rolling out some changes. Everybody gets mad. We're gonna roll these back.
Roll these back. Yeah. So if you guys aren't familiar, and I guess I mean the audience, because we obviously did our research. So
Yep.
they've and Matt recently informed me that they just kind of like silently threw this onto the internet. So originally they introduced, well, they actually rolled back in the sense that it's been an open gaming license forever. So what that means, people who are unfamiliar with D&D, is that Wizards of the Coast, they bought this game, and then they had a gaming license that the game's mechanics were based on. They released it to the public, and they said, here, anyone can build off of our game mechanics. And so that's what a lot of people did. A lot of people used their game mechanics. People like Critical Role, people like us to a lesser extent. A lot of people have used characters and modules and characters and rules and whatever from the special items, magic items, monsters, everything. Like most of fantasy is based off of some kind of D&D or Lord of the Rings character or race. And so they decided to just take that back. They're like, oh, well, we're not only going to just stop doing this open game license thing, we're gonna try to charge people. We're going to try to retroactively say, hey, you made a good amount of money off of our name, so pay us a lot of money. Well, that's the way I understand it. And if you want to read through the whole update, you can read through this here. So this pissed a lot of people off, like Josh was saying, and yeah, people weren't happy about this, and not just people who would have actually been affected financially, people who play the game, people who may or may not go watch the new movie that's coming out. And
Ooh.
So, yeah. So, there's that. They didn't think of that, obviously.
It'd be toasty.
Yeah. So now they walked it back to, well, just kidding. We're not really going to go after people financially and possibly sue you for using a character, like a fantasy character, like an elf or like a beholder, whatever. Or even saying that your thing is inspired by D&D, because I saw that in an article. So we're just gonna say, okay, well, just go ahead and give us credit. Like, just make sure you give us credit if you're gonna use stuff, and then if it's if it actually falls under copyright or it's close enough to what Wizards of the Coast publishes in their source books, their own characters, their own world, their own names and likeness, then we'll have a conversation. Which I don't know if you guys know that, but that's like actually how copyright law works. If you rip people off, then that gives them grounds to sue you, but you can't sue people over like fantasy characters.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Well, let's start from the beginning here.
Very ambitious.
Yeah.
Yeah, they basically had this open gaming license for a long time, and as you said, there's been a lot of people a lot of companies, even entire companies have been built around this. Paizo and Kobold Press and a couple of others have made their entire business based off of Dungeons and Dragons, and so obviously those were the big dogs in the fight. And when they got spooked, of course, the internet rallied. For anybody who's familiar with D&D, they might know that Pathfinder is also a derivative work of it, built off the open gaming license. And so when Wizards of the Coast announced that, so let's get straight here first. They didn't actually announce a revision to the open gaming license, they were calling 1.1. Supposedly it was a leak, and so it wasn't ready for the public eye, as Wizards has been keen to state. But nevertheless, what it revealed was that they were going to start insisting on royalty splits. And obviously Paizo and Kobold Press would have to take issue with that. So we here at Shattermare Comics had, kind of a jump scare from that too for a moment. We had to kind of scratch our heads and think how this was going to affect us. And actually it put one of our projects on hold. So one of our projects that I've been working on is to take our comic book and the storyline in it and turn it back into a module, and then have it available for everybody to buy and run at their own tables at home. That got put on hold immediately.
Right. Wait, Matt, hold on. Let me get this right. So you're saying that Wizards of the Coast was trying to find a way to undermine their direct to number 2 competitor and just instantly sink them? Because I think Paizo is like Wizards. D&D has the most market share. Like Wizards has the most market share when it comes to... They
define the market to a lot of people. I mean,
right.
To be fair, there are hundreds of role-playing games out there that span all kinds of genres, from horror to mystery to space to everything in between, including high fantasy. But yes, D&D, I mean, they're the gold standard for most of the fantasy role-playing game market, I think.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw the numbers, it was Wizards, Paizo, and then everybody else fighting for third place, like by a significant margin.
Well, yeah, and it's not, from one perspective, you could say it seems quite hostile to on Wizards' part to just be like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna wait 8-10 years or however long Paizo's been around for them to build up a really successful business model and get some real backers and some real revenue streams, and then we're just gonna take 30% or 20%, I forget what the number was, of their business. Yeah. We're just gonna take it. And how are we gonna do that? Well, I mean, they're using our SRD, our resources, right? They're using our core rules, right? Okay, well then it's ours anyway. So in one sense, I mean, that seems pretty hostile to me.
Yeah, it's like Mob Boss, kind of. Like, it'd be a real pity if, you got shut down.
Yeah, a real shame if this...
I think more so they were just... I don't
Yeah.
know if they expected to be able to really enforce anything. I think they were kind of just hoping that people would just capitulate to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, but nobody in their right mind could expect that that's just going to go down without, causing a scene.
You would think that.
Kind of built like a huge amount of a following in all these companies. Is like you're gonna take a livelihood from a bunch of people just because you changed their mind, and that's gonna go over real well.
Well, D&D was under monetized, so
right.
According to Wizards, yeah, I mean,
changes needed to be had.
So Wizards of the Coast, a subsidiary of Hasbro, owns several major branches, IPs, whatever you want to call them, including Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering and a couple of others. But yeah, I mean, with Dungeons and Dragons, their sales are the source books, and I don't know what all they have besides just selling source books, but I could see why they wanted to increase their monetization of it, but they pissed off everybody at once. So I don't know if they had any allies left. D&D Beyond, they actually straight up bought, and so I'm sure D&D Beyond didn't have any problems with the new OGL.
Sorry, I got
because the exciting conclusion to all this is that it's now going to be the Wizards of the Coast has announced that they're abandoning its plans to revise the OGL from 1.0 to 1.1, and they have released it as under the Creative Commons license, as Brian mentioned, had the article up. The Creative Commons license is a complete backtrack, a complete reversal, and it's using the CC-BY 4.0 license, which means that people like us and people like Paizo now can go about our business as we were before, and we don't have to pay Wizards anything. Some people say that I've read one article that someone said that they still use the wrong license and that they were actually too permissive because it would actually allow. It doesn't use the SA tag that is available in the Creative Commons license also, which it adds the share alike component to it, which means that everything that we get from Wizards of the Coast, we have to pass it without changes. We're actually allowed to make changes if somebody wants to. The concern is that they could take D&D's rules, their core rules, and actually fix them and then release it for profit and actually close off the copyright it themselves. They can close off. They can publish it under a different license other than the CC, the creative license, and then close off any further changes to it.
Right.
So,
that seems okay. I mean, let me.
It's probably not going to be a problem, and that's probably how it happened. I can only imagine that there was some really heated meetings between Paizo or somebody and Wizards, or maybe they just came to this conclusion on their own and they just don't understand licensing or something. But somebody out there is going to benefit.
I just want to say, usually I like being right, and this is one of these times. I'm not always right, but I am. And I straight up said Kyle and I had an interview in Tampa with in a radio show, and I predicted this. I said, you know what? They're gonna roll it back, and if they actually hire or they have anyone who in that company who actually knows what the fuck they're talking about, I don't know, a lawyer, a contract lawyer, they're gonna do exactly this. And I think they're doing what you're saying is because they realize, oh yeah, what we're doing is really dumb, and we're not going to get the results that we thought we were by what we were trying to explain. And so by having this, someone can come in and change it, that's fine, because that's a set of game mechanics. But they can separate the mechanics from the content that they create.
Well, the OGL covers a few things, actually. So under the OGL, they also released the SRD, and that specifies what is covered under the OGL. And in the SRD, it covers not just the core rules, but it also covers magic items, some of the monster manual, the base classes, obviously, and things of that nature. So it's all of those things that are under the in the SRD that's under the OGL or now the Creative Commons license. Anybody moving forward is free to publish using either the OGL 1.0 or the Creative Commons license.
Right, which is fine, because if you want to use the game mechanics, you can use that. You can make your own game world.
And you can still make house rules and homebrew, which is paramount, especially for 5th edition. You really need a lot of homebrew to fill in the gaps.
They literally introduced homebrew mechanics, and then this would completely destroy that system. So, yeah, I mean, so this way people can still effectively use the game mechanics, but they can still create their own actual intellectual property.
Yeah, and they get to claim that it's still their IP.
Right, which it is. So, okay.
And Hardly Heroes is, that's our IP, and we're not going to give it up lightly either.
Yeah, well, and it's transformative. It's not Faerun. It's not set in Baldur's Gate, and it's the same characters. We're not just doing a derivative work of, I don't know, what's the random D&D.
Right, Faerun is not covered in. Faerun is not in the SRD, so if we were to publish anything with Faerun, we would be walking all over their copyright stuff.
And that's how it should be. And someone finally walked in their boardroom and smacked them in the face or whatever. And told them,
well, the entire community smacked him in the face.
That's true. Yeah, the community came in.
It was Bigsby's big community hand.
Right. And they must have finally hired a consultant or something. I don't know.
It was like the Sonic with the teeth. They changed everything.